Welcome to this video, and after rather long break from tournament coverage, I decided to do some coverage of this newly established super tournament in Norway. I think it's really just called Norway 2013 Super Tournament. It doesn't have a fancy name, but I need to look that up. I didn't manage yet. Maybe it has some fancy super classics whatever name. It has got almost all top players. Only Kramnik is missing. He got replaced a couple of weeks ago by Peter Swidler, so a very strong field, including Carlsen, of course. He's the reason for the existence of this tournament. Okay, so I'm going to do daily reports. If there was around, there I think 2 rest days, and I'll be doing a daily report, but I won't do a super detailed coverage of the games. So all games, but rather quickly. Let's start. First round saw Carlsen against Topalov, which is quite an interesting matchup. Topalov had some very nice results recently. He's recouped some of his ELO rating losses. He's nearing the 2,800 mark again. Okay, so let's see what happens. Carlsen playing 1c4. We got a symmetrical English, and this all is fairly normal. And Topalov now plays d5. This is actually a line that I can recommend to black players. It's a good choice to play as black. It's also a way to play with which you can actually easily get an advantage as black if white is not careful. Okay, Carlsen takes and plays d4. The most common move actually, instead of d4 here, or the most common moves, now let's say are this knight c3 or castles, which can lead to the same thing. Black in any case would retreat with the knight here to c7 and then set up e5, which is sort of a reversed Maroczy bind with e5 and c4, e5 and c5, and this in itself is a very nice setup for black, gaining space and simply trying to take over in this game. It is not exactly a reversed Maroczy, because white has this extra tempo and he's got some ways to directly play for something. For example, castles e5 a3 is such an idea with the quick b4. Okay, this is another story, but this is something I can recommend for black. Carlsen, however, played differently, played d4, and this of course fundamentally changes the position. Black is not going to play e5 now, and he doesn't have so much choice. Black has sharp continuations here, like bishop f5 for example, but they are not correct. He took now on d4, knight takes, and now a very important move. Black now only has got one move available that gives him a satisfactory position, and this is knight to b4. This is an important move to remember. In other cases, white would take and weaken black's pawn structure. For example, something like this, of course, is very nice for white. You can always play against c6, or black could also try to take here, and this is already fantastic. Look at this bishop. Black has got a terrible position. So after knight d4, black really needs to play this move. There's nothing else. And now of course it's also tricky for white. The knight is just hanging, and what's white supposed to do? Basically you can just take. There's nothing else. And now black can exchange on d1 with check. King takes, knight takes c6. And we have a symmetrical pawn structure. We've got 4 here against 4 pawns, and we only 2 against 2, of course, and we only got C and D file open. White's problem is he cannot castle anymore. He lost time with the king and will lose even more time with it to bring it into safety and allow the rooks to enter the game on C and D file. White will lose time with the king. This is of course a disadvantage, but look at this one. White has got the excellent Catalan bishop. In fact, this whole line has been a special weapon of the Swedish endgame master Ulf Andersson. Andersson played this often, really often, and he won from this position numerous games. Of course, he never lost one. He's not the guy to lose at all, actually, especially with White. But he won a couple of very impressive games, just with this very slight advantage in activity, with this great bishop. Let's put a couple of moves on the board and we see a bit more about this. Yeah, see that these bishops are exerting some pressure, and White is also a bit quicker here to put the rooks on good squares. We'll play king b1 to get the king out of the c file. This is actually not a very common plan. A normal way to proceed in this position is very often just to play king to e1, f4, and king to f2. This is also a plan that has been played by Andersson quite a number of times. Okay, but it didn't happen. It was just it's this setup, and this also looks quite nice for White. Knight a5 intends to get counterplay, and now Magnus exchanges the strong g7 bishop, of course, which yeah, okay, this check is inserted and drops back. Yeah, Black played this check on f5, this check here, to make sure that this pawn is arriving on e4, which blunts this bishop a bit. In this position, we can play a couple of more simple moves. b3 covers the square. Just want to put a couple of more moves on the board. This is all very easy to understand. Yeah, and how to evaluate this position? It's very slightly more comfortable for White, but it's not much. He's got this space advantage based on the pawns here. The king on the queen side is potentially somewhat better than the king on f7 because the action is on the queen side, and it's just very little what White is having, but still I believe it's not so much fun to defend this position against Carlsen. Okay, Topalov played a couple of moves here on the king side, and now went h4. This is an interesting decision. I'm not quite sure if this was really necessary. I mean, Topalov is one of those guys who really doesn't want to put up a passive defense. It's very similar to Kasparov in this respect. Kasparov also lost quite a number of games in his career. I mean, relatively speaking, it's not like he was losing all the time. He's the best player of all time, or one of the best for some reason. But Kasparov had the same kind of behavior. If he was worse, he always tried to defend actively and never just put up a passive defense and sort of defended only. And now h4 is a typically active looking move by Topalov. Maybe here was the position where Carlsen could have tried to do something to imbalance the position. He just played bishop c4 check, but maybe it was an idea to take here. It's not like I'm so sure, but maybe this was an idea. A possibility is, or an idea is, to play h5 here get rid of this weak pawn, and then you would have an extra pawn. So black needs to do something direct here, maybe attack it, and then after h5, black probably shouldn't take here, because this can get tricky easily. Also because of this move, tending bishop c4, and black is in slight trouble. Also here, these kind of ideas. I think after h5, black maybe should just go g5 and make sure that he gets the g5 square for the knight. For instance, after taking this knight e5 at some moment, not immediately, because a7 hangs, but this is maybe a good way to defend the position. Yeah, maybe Carlsen should have taken to get some imbalance in this. In the game, he played normal kind of moves. No, knight c5, a possibility. Yeah, but it didn't materialize. And just optically, yeah, from looking at it, white looks somewhat better, but it's really not much going on. Yeah, g4. If you look at this is the active looking move, but after this, the rook has nowhere to go. You need to retreat in this concrete position, let's say here, and after this you cannot defend the pawn. So this rook h7 is really bad. White needs to go g4, and after this it pretty much straightforwardly went to a draw. Yeah, white always gets this pawn back, and just a couple of moves later they agreed to a draw. Yeah, this wasn't played, but okay, it's as drawish as it as it gets. So it's a bit of a dull game. I mean, Carlsen played it safe, and got a very slight nibble maybe, but it's not. It wasn't enough to get anything substantial against Topalov. Yeah, so a draw in this game. Need to switch to the other games. Let's switch to Anand Aronian, and we've got e4 and a Ruy Lopez, Spanish opening. Aronian plays a6. He actually mixes. He plays the Berlin once in a while, but his main weapon is the Marshall, or trying to get the Marshall. Nowadays, everyone is playing this d6 move, d3 move. Sorry, the 6 d3 to avoid the Marshall. The thing is that even in those here in those anti-marshals like h3, even there are nowadays there are gambit ideas like this, which are not easy to refute, if possible at all. Also, a4 is kind of toothless nowadays because of b4. So the anti-marshals really, in this form, I mean, really don't promise white so much. On a professional level, of course, it's on a normal chess level, even up to, let's say, international masters or something, there's no problem in playing one of those other lines. Okay, d3, and now Aronian plays d6. Normally, he is playing this line, and he's got good results with it, but now he varies with d6. Yeah, and now Vichy takes the chance to get this game into a somewhat less explored territory. He's playing c4 here, and quickly. This is quite uncommon, this setup. It looks a bit like this Botvinnik pawn structure, which sometimes occurs in the English opening, c4, d3, and e4, or even with black c5 and e5. The curious thing is this bishop. If white would have played g3, bishop g2, it would look like pretty standard English opening. The main drawback, of course, is that d4 is weakened for white, but he's got a firm grip on d5 and can develop his pieces easily. Let's look at this. Okay, and now quickly Aronian tries to use the weakened d4 square. It got exchanged, and that as well. Yeah, so we got opposite colored bishops. Does this mean it's a draw? Yeah, not really. There are some ideas, and I think the ideas are mainly for white, and this is because this bishop is always really biting on granite, on this own d4 pawn. Okay, you can argue that this bishop isn't great as well, which is actually true, it isn't a great piece. But white maybe has ideas to put it on b3 and maybe play c5 at the right moment to improve the bishop. And there's also this idea when the bishop is on b3, on this diagonal with c5, there's also the idea to use the f pawn to play against f7. So black deck needs to be a bit careful that white doesn't get all this into play, but he found a good way to get counterplay with a5 and queen b4. This is irritating for white. He played queen c2, avoiding the trade. Now switched the queen over to the king side. Yeah, black is quick here with f5, initiating counterplay, especially against the f-pawn, which can be pressurized with bishop h6. And here in the game we see that with a tactical shot here, bishop takes f4, not a difficult shot. We had some mass exchanges here. And after that, yeah, it's an extra pawn for black here, but no way to improve the position. There's simply this this threat. Queen f5 is the only way to prolong it a couple of moves. But after the capture and black enters on e2, he needs to do that. He cannot allow white to grab this pawn, for example, if you play some stupid move. So black needs to be quick. Rook f2, and after that we got a draw. They repeated a couple of times, and then it is drawn. I'm not quite sure if there's some anti-draw rule applied in this tournament. I'm almost positive there is one. It's really rare that tournaments don't have that. Okay, but here it is a very logical draw. The rook is on the 7th. White cannot afford any slow move. Black is a pawn up already. Oh, I'm sorry, it's not a pawn up. He returned it with queen f5, of course, but white has no choice. He cannot allow black to take those pawns. So rook f2. And after this, this king move is also ridiculous, because after this, black is simply better. So a pretty uneventful draw. Okay, the next game going to be I don't know, where is it? Here, Nakamura against Wang Hao. Had Petrov defense, or Russian defense, very solid. Wang Hao is not playing that too often, I think, but the Petrov is popular among Chinese GMs anyway. For instance, Wang Yu, who was China's #1 for a couple of years, and now is on rank 2 or 3 in the national rankings. But he played the Petrov very often, for example. Okay, got this capture and knight c3, which nowadays is one of the main continuations. White really has a hard time to get anything after d4 and d5. In this structure, however, White has a very clear-cut plan. Develop the bishop here or here, queen d2, long castles, and yeah, well, depending on circumstances, you might even push here on the king side later if your king is secured. But this is actually something I always tell white players to look at this. If they ask me for advice what to do against the Petrov, because this is very easy to play. You don't need to know much. It's an open position, which after 1e4 should be a position type that you should be familiar with or like to play. And quite often you really can get a dangerous attack going if black really castles short. And in this game he does. He castles short very quickly. Queen d2, and now he played b6. In my database, this is funny enough not played at all. Like b6 novelty. Maybe it's my database. It is pretty up to date, but it's not like having all the games of the last couple of weeks. I didn't find a game with b6. Black's idea is obviously to complete development, or maybe to c6. And the main moves are knight c6 or knight d7. Here is just starting with b6. Yeah, let's advance a couple of moves. This is important. White first centralized the knight, and after being attacked by knight c6, knight f5 is the key move. And the knight is, of course, on a very nice square. So we see that Nakamura is advancing his pawns aggressively on the king side, and it's already not easy for black to play. I don't think that black is in deep trouble. Bishop b5, rook e4 is not in deep trouble, but it's not easy to play this position. Those two pieces are simply irritating, and the knight on g4 and rook on e4, they look slightly exposed. White now went knight g3 and the rook dropped back. It's possible that maybe rook e7 was somewhat better, but it's not easy to tell. Rook e1, and now maybe queen c8 was the tougher move. Black exchanged on e1, and now he faced the threat of rook e8 check. Rook e8 check, yeah. But the question is this really a threat? Wang Hao now went h6. And here, in this position, of course, rook e8 was possible. But Nakamura didn't play it. Let's have a look at this. This looks like a very easy way to get something for white. And it's, of course, the main move by the computer. It assesses this position here as very good for white, but the problem is, if you look at this now, this bishop is hanging, so we can insert those moves. The problem is, just from a material point of view, of course, white has won the queen against bishop and rook, but the concrete position is, I think, quite favorable for black is the wrong word, but I think black has good enough pieces and outposts to maybe have hopes to actually draw this game. It's not so easy for white to make any substantial progress, especially those two squares are terribly weakened, and it's not clear how to make any concrete headway. For example, you can also easily think of fortress type of positions. Just for instance, it's not forced. If black would play here, just to put it on the board. Let's just think of something like this. How is white ever going to win this? You just put the rook here, and for example, it's not necessary to play that passively, but black can probably just sit and wait, and white needs to prepare this only break that he's got left to win the game. It's not clear that he can do that, but of course knight e4 is even a bit too quick here. Black does not need to do it so quickly. I think the queen win here with rook e8 is very overestimated by the computer. Nakamura played queen e2, which is also the move that puts more pressure on black. It attacks the knight, and this now after queen g4 is very nice for white. Let's say here, and knight h5. Now you threaten rook e8, but it's much more dangerous now. For example, I mean dangerous is just the wrong word. It simply wins the game. Black cannot take it. Black can try to insert this move and then take it, but it's still not helping so much. It's possible to
incoming challenge.
Oops, I need to switch that off. Queen g4 takes, and now queen h5. This is actually very strong. g6, and now this sacrifice.
Check.
Yeah, this is actually an interesting position. If you have some time on your hands, try to find the most promising attacking continuation for white. There are two moves that are almost that are very similar and can lead to identical positions. Maybe treat it as an exercise if you want to look. I think it's not so easy to see this move beforehand. The strong move is queen to g5. It's very strong. The idea is to play this move and rook e6 to g6. Both is very, very, very strong. Black simply has no move here. Computer evaluation is +6, so black is completely busted. Instead of queen g5, there's also, funny enough, rook e6 with the idea to play queen g5 and rook g6. And against this, black also has no antidote. It's basically the same variation. So this is why black cannot play a6 and he cannot take on g5. So what is he supposed to do? He played queen to c8, covering. Oops, queen c8 and bishop b3. Yeah, amongst others with this bishop f5 idea. Black again cannot really take. Yeah, and this is nice. The knight is now hanging, and yeah, how to defend with black. This is the relatively best way to go. Hoping on this this strong knight, rook h1, and now I just want to show the next move because it's so nice. If black goes g6 now, which is pretty much the only move here, white has the very strong self fork, knight h5. Always funny to create a fork yourself against your own pieces. Yeah, black needs to take, and then this strong move, sacrificing a bishop. Black cannot take. This is an instant mate.
Check. Checkmate.
So after this check, king g7 here, f5 looks terrible at first, but I mean, okay, it's not great for black, but this is still something that needs to be played. Yeah, and at the end the pawn promotes. Black has no way to prevent it. It's a very, very dangerous attack that Nakamura has drummed up here. Yeah, this is what Wang Hao played, trying to get rid of the queens. Yeah, Nakamura exchanged, not much choice. And here won this pawn on e6. That, however, is returned immediately. G2 is also hanging. So what is White's edge here? He's got the rook on the 7th. This is just a very important aspect of the position. Somehow I cannot draw arrows. Why is this? Oops. I've got a bit of a lag here, strangely enough. Now it's working. Okay, the 7th rank. And to be honest, I of course did some preparatory analysis of this game, but I'm not quite sure in the next couple of moves where Wang Hao really went wrong. I mean, maybe this already is a problem. Thing is, now you've got this position here, which arised very quickly. Oh, this wasn't intended. I mean, the point is, black here, for example, can think about this kind of move. Of course, it's not comfortable. Look at this. Something like this looks nice for white, but I mean, black had alternatives to consider and maybe play. What I'm pretty sure of, that again, that the computer evaluation here is just wrong. Here in this position, the computer Houdini is only giving white a very slight edge, and I have a hard time to understand that. I believe that with good technical play, white should actually just win this position. I'm not. I didn't write it down how much. I mean, how Houdini exactly accesses this position, but I know that it didn't give white a big advantage, and it's pretty clear that it's only white that can win here. We can go ahead a couple of moves. The thing is, it's just 2 pieces, and those pieces are not too shabby. Nakamura activated this nicely, and now at the end wants to get to the d5 pawn, and maybe provoke it to advance or just win it. And in fact, in the game, he just won it. Here, after this position, after this move, Wang Hao resigned. He has no way to protect this pawn after rook d6. There's knight c7, and this also gives away the pawn. So nice victory by Nakamura, but I am not so sure where exactly Wang Hao went wrong. I mean, I didn't have enough time to really look very deeply. It's clear, if you go back here, that he always was under some pressure, but it's not clear to me if, for instance, maybe here, instead of knight d5, which leads to this strange material imbalance, if instead of this, maybe c5 was tougher. White also looks better here, but I'm not 100% sure. Also, I believe that this endgame with 2 minor pieces, black probably had chances to defend better, but it's very ugly to defend this with the rook. Can easily lose pieces. It's also a matter of weaknesses. Everything is oops, no, not this. Black has got multitude of weaknesses on the light squares, so I'm not quite sure if it is winning. White is close to, I'm sure, but I'm not 100% sure if you would bet your life on it. Okay, what games are left? Karyakin, Rajarov, okay. Yeah, Rajarov is really in bad shape. He played a very bad candidates tournament, finishing last with I don't know, -6 or something, a disastrous result. Okay, let's see. Karyakin going for e4 as usual, but with knight c3 on move 3, he declines any ideas of playing a Sveshnikov or Kalashnikov or whatever with d4. Knight c3 is a good move to avoid those lines. And now Rajavov played g6. Yeah, this is of course a good move. g6, very natural. He very often also played e5 in this position. But okay, g6 is not a bad move at all. White now can transpose, and probably should transpose, into an open Sicilian, which is the accelerated dragon line. And black is traditionally believed to be quite okay here. Okay, Karjakin played differently. He played bishop b5, and this now is a bit of a hybrid line between this 3 knight c3 as played and the Rossolimo. The only difference to the Rossolimo is of course that the knight is on c3, which is not the best square all the time, because in lots of lines you like to expand in the center, and of course the knight on c3 is not great for that. Okay, bishop g7, normal, castles, and now e5. Yeah, e5 is a common way to set up your pieces in those close positions. I'm not 100% sold on the idea in exactly this position, because, yeah, frankly, because of the game continuation. Maybe some more solid setups were better. Look what happens, just to make this clear. White lost the tempo here, but improved the bishop, now on c4. h6, didn't want to have any of this. And now white played a3, which is a double purpose move. It gives a square for the bishop. And prepared exactly this move, b4. Yeah, it's a common idea in this line, to gain space on the queen side, and black actually has a hard time to answer this. If you would grab it, this is really bad. Look at this, and now white uses the opportunity to plant the bishop on d6, and yeah, well, have a look at a couple of seconds at this, and how is black ever going to make an active move here? So this is not playable at all. So black basically needs to allow the capture on c5. After this, for example, this was played. And now rook e1. Yeah, this is all directed against the later f5. Of course, this is only possible if you move the king away. So king h7 and knight d5. Yeah, how to assess this position? I think it's clear that white is maybe slightly better. He's got an extra pawn in the center and has good control over the weakened d5 square. Yeah, some exchanges, and white now uses d5 by the bishop. The problem is, yeah, black doesn't really want to take it, but can you on the other hand allow it to stay? White, in maybe not here, but in some similar cases, white may even cement this with c4, and this is just a strong piece, but it didn't get so far. Knight d2 is an instructive move. Allows the trade, has the not allows the trade, prevents the trade on f3. The knight has got nice squares. In the long run, maybe even d5. And with c3, you're going to kick out the d4 knight. Yeah, black now took. And we have this transformation, which is, at first you think, okay, isn't white a bit passive here? He's got everything on the back rank, and black's got a nicely positioned piece on d4. But in fact, white has a very nice position. The knight is not doing so much on d4. It's not attacking anything. Very often you can just take it off. And in the meantime, white has got ideas on the b file. Here on the b file can play also a5. And this is not a great piece here on g7. And now white played this very nicely. He advanced on the queen side here with a5, trying to create a weakness on the half-open b file. Yeah, black really desperately looks for activity. Yeah, and this is simple and strong. Exchange the only good piece that black has. Yeah, needs to take here, of course. Oops, this is not on at all. Just blunders away the game. Needs to take with the c pawn. Yeah, and now white goes queen c6 and makes sure that he gets the b6 pawn. Now this is pretty much forced. Black is really in big trouble. Yeah, it's an extra pawn at the moment, and in addition, this very strong advance, breaking up the center. Black doesn't have much choice. He loses a pawn in the center anyway, so white just grabbed it. And here it's an extra pawn, and d4 is a weakness. It's easily surrounded and taken later. Can put a couple of moves on the board.
Check. Check.
And here Rajabov resigned. It's just the day of the c-pawn. There's also no way to do that after c6. The pawn is just unstoppable. You always have rook c4, for example, something like this here. Got this, and now it will promote. Yeah, you maybe notice that I didn't criticize black's moves so heavily. Frankly, I'm not so sure what exactly went wrong to get really a lost position. I mean, I like white better in this structure with the nice piece here, but I'm not 100% sure what went wrong. I mean, I'm pretty sure that white now here is better, but what should black have done? Maybe after this, some slower moves, even allowing this possible advance. I'm not sure. I mean, black is certainly in slight trouble here, but he shouldn't lose in the way he lost now in this review. Yeah, very hard to tell how it went downhill. All right, so let's have a look at the final game, the last game. This is between Peter Swidler and John Ludwig Hammer. Hammer, pretty nice name, I think, for a chess player. And then the hammer came down on my head or something. Well, okay, let's see what happened. Okay, if you don't know the black player, he's Norway's #2. He's even a schoolmate of Magnus Carlsen, so they did quite some training sessions together in the past, and he's a very strong grandmaster in his own right. Okay, Swidler opened with d4, and we got a Grunfeld, which is always, I think, a pretty cheeky choice against maybe the world #1 expert on the Grunfeld. So Swidler playing white, and he went for the bishop e3 line, knight f3, bishop e3. In the candidates, I think he played another less theoretically demanding line against Gelfand with bishop d2 here on move 5. But this time we get one of the absolute main lines. Queen a5, of course attacking. And this is the normal response, knight c6. And now rook b1. Yeah, rook b1 is not the most common move in this position. The most popular one is, of course, rook c1, as played hundreds of times. Rook b1 is interesting, though. The point is that white is probably threatening rook b5, so black needs to react in some way. This sounds weird in this context, but in fact black can play something like this, which looks a bit insane, but he can play this queen sacrifice. And for a while it was even thought that black actually has enough compensation. This is nowadays, I think, not the case anymore. It's considered to be better for white, but it's still tricky. Okay, but Hammer didn't do that. The most popular move actually is a6 in this position, and then rook c1. Okay, has white lost the tempo? Yeah, in a way, yes. a6 is the additional move, but this also weakens the square. If you look at the game, this is probably the best way to explain this point. Black took here. Think about this structure. The move a6 here would terribly weaken b6. Of course, a6 can make sense in some positions if you have enough time to play. Let's say a6, b5, knight a5, bishop d7, rook c8, and finally knight c4. Then a6, b5 might make sense, but in general you never want to go a6 here because it just weakens. So this is why a6 is a committal move. Okay, but back to the game. We have this position, and this is similar to the rook c1 line. In the other line, the rook c1 line, the rook here is on c1, now it is on b1. It is believed that this should favor white somewhat. The reason being that the rook is nicely placed on the b file to attack the pawn, so black cannot easily develop the bishop. And later you got those rooks on those lines. It's quite nice, but the next couple of moves look very, very normal, and it doesn't seem like black has got any particular problems. I'm not a huge expert on this. I mean, now okay, e7 attacked, so black covered this. After bishop f4, there's this idea, and black has now two principal ways. He can play e5 or b6. Hammer here just played b6, bishop b5. Yeah, this tries to control squares and maybe threaten bishop c7, and now Hammer went e5. Yeah, and to be honest, I think that black doesn't have any big problems here. Bishop moves. Bishop d7. He exchanged yet now one of the bishops here, and now played knight to b7. In fact, in this position there was always also the idea to go f5, which at first looks really strong, because you ask yourself, what is white even playing now? Isn't this a problem with the king and the rook facing each other? But there's this move which is quite strong. The point is that f4 is really a terrible move because of bishop c5, a move that you can easily miss. I mean, okay, not in this concrete position, your bishop is trapped and all, but beforehand you can easily miss this idea, and this is quite terrible for black. You never want to play f5, f4 if it leaves white with a protected passer on the d file, and black has no play at all. This didn't really help. So knight b7 played by Hammer is nice. He wants to go here, and this way also pressurize the e4 pawn. Yeah, the king needs to get out of the d file finally. Knight here and rook b4. Yeah, and here black had alternatives. I think actually that, just my belief, I can only speculate here, that Hammer was trying to play for an edge here. Maybe. I think that he played a5, but I think that f5, for example, was simple and good. I don't see any idea even that what white can play for. Knight g5 is one idea, and now simply take on c4. You can also play rook c8. It doesn't matter much, but I think this is the simplest. This kind of position is completely harmless. Black will even get the pawn here. And in fact, knight e6 is a funny idea, at least. The idea being that after this, there's rook c4, but it's not so dangerous, really. Knight f6 even is playable. I think that f5 was simple and strong, and would have, I think, easily led to a fine position that black should draw without too much hassle. He played a5, which is not bad. I mean, he's giving up b6 and getting e4 in return, and then on top d5 is also weak. It's a pawn sacrifice really by white, and he took it. So I think this is what he calculated, just getting the pawn. But the fact is that white has got two very strong invading rooks, and this is certainly enough to keep the balance, but it shouldn't be a decisive factor in white's favor. Rook ad8 was attacked, and now f5. Yeah, again a move that I think makes it more difficult. Why not simply oppose on the 7th? Something like this. Just a sample line. Rook c2 check. Yeah. And here, and white is never going to win this. In fact, here he probably should force the draw with this. I think this was a relatively easy way to draw. I'm not so sure why he went f5. Maybe he was trying to play for an edge. I don't know. Okay, this is not looking so terrible as well, but it makes life more difficult. Now white is on the 7th. Yeah, white has got those rooks and the a-pawn weakness, while this double rooks here, they cannot give a decisive check. It's all covered. So one rook gets traded. This is sensible, and of course black returned this e5 pawn. Here maybe here there also was the bishop b4 in this position. Now he didn't play that. He played bishop to d4, not to b4. But this here is already quite tricky, because white will get the g-pawn, then you've got 3 against 1 and just a single pass pawn on the other side. There's also this excellent bishop on the central post, so black is in critical shape here. He played bishop d4, and after rook b5, which is quite strong, black has no other way to go than to accept this endgame. And I'm not 100% sure how to assess this. Of course, those are relatively standard endgames with the a-pawn, but this is not a so standard version of it, because both sides have moved the f-pawn, which doesn't occur so often. White's king is relatively good here. It could also be on g1, for example. Because under other circumstances, let's say pawns on f2 and f7, and the king is on g1, black gets the pawn behind the rook behind the pawn, it should be a draw, but I'm not so sure in this concrete position. It's somehow a bit of an unlucky configuration for black. In the game, Hammer lost this quite smoothly, but I must admit that I simply didn't have the time tonight to get to the bottom of this. It's we can look what happened. I mean, a couple of checks. The a-pawn gets pushed, and the king side is also weak by black slightly. Yeah, they combined this with h4. I was still surprised that Hammer was trying to defend here from the side and not going behind the pawn. Maybe it's too late now, but anyway, h4 and king e6. Yeah, maybe it was tougher to play h5 yourself, but yeah, it's not nice. Still hard to believe. Okay, yeah, I cannot really tell. I mean, in the game it was very smooth, because white just won the whole king side, and here he just covered his stuff. And got to this winning endgame, which Hammer now resigned. If I got slightly more time and I'm less tired, I will look at this endgame again. It's certainly critical for black, but I'm not so sure if he really should lose it. Yeah, I would really need to invest more time to look at this. You can also switch on a computer. It is just nonsense what this thing is giving. I mean, it's simply not a reliable assessment. You need to analyze yourself, and you can of course get some help by the computer, but it's not like it's just telling you in clear evaluation terms that white is winning or it is a draw. So in this first round we got 3 decisive games. Whittler beating Hammer here, Karjakin beating Rajabov, and Nakamura winning against Wang Hao. So nice start of the tournament. The second round, which is played on the 9th of May, even features the upcoming World Championship setup between Carlsen and Anand. Can be curious what is going to happen there. I'm not sure. I think, yeah, Vichy should. Oh, they both had white today. I'm not quite sure who's got the white pieces, so we can look forward to that tomorrow. Or let's say on Thursday the 9th. Not sure when you watch this video. Yeah, thanks for watching this, and I'll be back with the second round in just a couple of hours. Bye.